If you've been postponing making your presentations because you don't know where to get started, watch this video till the end. And I promise you that not only you will get started, but you'll end up making your presentation in less than an hour. Hello everyone, I'm Captain Shikha Saxena, founder of Aram Resource Management Solutions, an entity engaged in development of human capital. In this video today, we are going to talk about how to plan and structure your presentations. The first stage, in fact, it's the pre-planning stage of making any presentation. In our experience, we have observed and experienced that anybody who wants to make an effective presentation ideally should spend 80% of his or her time in planning as to what he or she wants to put in the presentation, and only 20% of your time should go into the execution. And if you follow the SMART principle, the experience says the presentation outcome is normally effective. Following the same principle, we are going to talk about in this presentation how you can plan and structure your presentations. Now, before you get started or you even decide to create your first slide, you should sit with pen and paper and answer a couple of questions. These questions will provide you more clarity on what you want and how you want. And once you're clear on that, putting anything on your slide becomes much more easy. So the first question that you should be asking yourself is, who is my target audience? Who am I going to address? And when I say who am I going to address, I am not talking about I'm going to address a set of students or I'm going to address a set of staff employees or something like that. What you actually need to do is create a sketch, bio sketch of those people in terms of what their requirements would be. And this would require you to identify their needs. Why would they come and attend your presentation? What would they gain from this presentation? What need are you going to address? What gap are you going to fulfill? Or what is it that you want to achieve at the end of this presentation? And how does it map to their needs? So you need to look at it from their perspective and not your perspective. You should also be able to figure out, do they already have some knowledge about the subject or not? If they have, then use it as a base to start off your presentation. And if they don't have, then think of starting a presentation where you'll be able to address that need also. Understanding their professional background, their age, and certain other characteristics would further help you in having clarity on what you want to go in your presentation and what you want to go out of your presentation. So this is the first and the most critical question that you should answer yourself. Having got an answer to this question, you should move on to the second question. And the second question is, what is the purpose or the objective you want to achieve at the end of this presentation? There's always a reason as to why you're giving that presentation. Are you clear about that reason? If you are, you know your purpose, you know your objective. Normally, in my experience, which is around 28 years of making presentations, I have observed presentations revolve around three things. Presentations are usually there to inform someone about something. So there could be subcategories to this, that is of creating awareness, making people aware of a new product, service. All those could be subcategories. But the key objective of the purpose would be to inform someone. The other purpose that a lot of presentations are created for is to convince something about a product or service, or about your own opinion on a certain thing or a certain topic. So there's a conviction that you want to build around, and that's when you give a presentation. And the third reason why people make presentation is because they want someone to act on what they are saying. That is, they want to persuade them. Now, there is a possibility that your presentation may have more than one of these objectives weaved in. There could be a presentation with all the three, purpose built into it. But remember, in case you're making a presentation, a long presentation with all the three purpose or objective weaved into it, then ensure that you're compartmentalizing your presentation into three different boxes. One is for information, one is for connection, one is for persuasion. Don't mix them. You might be giving one presentation, but essentially at the back, what you're doing is you're creating three different presentations which are weaved into have one presentation as far as the audience is concerned. But for you on your drawing board, you have three different purposes you want to achieve, and you need to have three different approaches used for the same. That is the key. Weaving them is a separate thing which I'm not discussing in this presentation, but this is more about having clarity as to what you want to do and why you're doing this presentation. The next and the third important question that you need to answer is, while I want to inform, persuade, or convince my audience, what is one key message that I want them to take away from this presentation? And that key message is the reason why your audience will attend this presentation. And you need to give them the benefit of coming to your presentation and listening to it by mapping this key message to the need that they have. We'll talk about it in detail in the coming slide. Now, having answered these three questions, you're clear on what you're looking for. It's time to go and research and collate information. When I say research, I'm saying the very sources from you where you would be pulling out your information. So go and look out and pull all the information that you want into one place. Normally people do go and Google, and when they Google, then they have heap and heap of content lying with them. But that's the stage one. We need to do it that way. We need to have a lot of information available to us before we can create a presentation. Now that you have this heap of information, what you need to do is you need to segregate into three buckets. And these buckets, if you understand and if you have clarity, let me tell you, half the battle is won. So what is the first bucket? The first bucket is putting your content in a category which says my audience needs to know this. It is must for them to know this. Only then my key objective and the needs of the audience will be met. Then only my purpose of giving this presentation would be met. So that is the must know or need to know of your presentation. The second category of content would be, it is good if they know this also, but you need to have it in a separate bucket. Why? I'll come back and talk about it. And finally, the third bucket, which is good know, it's nice to know. There's certain things which people, even if they don't know, nothing goes miss. So once you have segregated your content into these three buckets, then you go and start developing a flow. Now, presentations do have a flow, and the flow are very, very well defined. So normally we start with the title slide, and then we go on to talk about the objectives that we want to achieve at the end of this presentation, and we give an overview. At times, objective overviews are overlapping one another. Depends upon who you are presenting to, what is the objective and what is the audience. So between these two slides, at times people have only one slide, or at times people have objective followed by an overview or agenda for the slide, which is the overview. The third is then comes the main content, the meat piece that you want to talk about in your presentation. And finally, there is a summary or a conclusion or a closing slide, which is followed by question answer session if your presentation permits it. In other words, it is said a presentation basically is divided into three parts. That is, it should have an opening, it should have a main body, and it should have a close. Right? Now that we have all the things researched, content divided into category, it's time to sit and start creating your presentation skeleton. Presentation still is a far away. What we're doing is right now creating a skeleton or an outline, talking about these number of slides I'm going to put and what content goes on what slide. How do we weave engagement, or how do we exactly put that, is a separate thing that we'll come and talk about in my next video. So now what you need to do is you need to make the presentation outline, and while making the presentation, the checkpoints for you are, that is your key message addressing the identified need of the audience, because those are the two questions that we answered. Is your main body or the main point that you're making, is it revolving around the key message? The main slides that you've put in the content, are they around that main point or the key message that you want to do? If these three things are in sync, you are on target. You're making a good presentation, right? Arrange your content in a logical flow. Build them step by step. In this presentation, I said step 1, research. Step 2, segregation. Step 3, giving shape to your presentation. Now, if I intermingle this and I say give a shape to your presentation, and then you should go for a research, and then you should come and do it, it will not connect with my audience. So connecting with your audience is very important, and that requires a logical flow. The next important thing is, how do I put my content on the slide? That is the tone, or what should I say, the emotion that you want to put on your slide. Now this is also a very, very important component, and this makes a presentation a killer presentation or a boring presentation, right? You kill the presentation with this or you kill the audience with this, choice is yours. Now, keeping this, to create this, you should keep in mind there is something called Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is what is in for the audience. And if the tone of your presentation is aligned to this Wi-Fi, your presentation will always be effective. If you're talking about how this will benefit the customer, the audience who's listening to you, they will connect to you. But if you're saying how it will connect to you or how it will benefit you, there's a possibility of a disconnect. Let me just give you an example to amplify what I'm saying. Let me say that I am giving a presentation where I'm informing, convincing and persuading people to buy a very expensive car that my company has launched. And one of the features I want to stress upon is that, this car has got 6 airbags, and probably that's the reason the car is on the expensive side. Now, one way of saying is, fine, people may say it's expensive, but we've got 6 airbags in the car. The other way of saying this is, keeping in mind the safety of your family, we have equipped this car with 6 airbags. This will ensure that when you drive this car, you have a peace of mind that you and your family are safe in this car. Now, if that is the tone, then there's a connect between you and the audience. And the last point I want to make it that the main point that you are talking about should be supported with evidence. Now, evidence could be in form of data, story, experience, outcome, benefit, but whatever it is, support it. That is very essential because that is what brings credibility to your presentation, right? With this, I come to the end of this presentation because the objective of doing this presentation was to get you started, for you to have your outline or blueprint ready. Now that the blueprint is ready, watch for my next video in which I'll talk about how you can weave engagement in this presentation. What are the tools and how you can weave engagement for your audience through different tools in your presentations. So stay tuned for more. We'll be uploading that video tomorrow. Please subscribe, like, and share this video. Thank you.